Now we would like to commence 40 minutes IWAYA's press conference.
Minister, please. Thank you all for coming. Initially, I would like to make some comments. From yesterday, in both the upper and lower houses of the Diet, the meetings have been held. Diet has been in session, and there were questions and answers. And within that, there were various discussions related to diplomatic affairs and national security as well. Now, based on the discussions at the Diet session, I am determined to deploy diplomacy thoroughly. Now, I myself, yesterday, we had a phone call with Foreign Minister Wong from Australia, and today I received a courtesy visit from Commander Paparo of the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command. Based on Japan-U.S. alliance, we would like to fully promote the collaboration amongst the friendly nations and like-minded nations, so that we can protect Japan's peace and also realize regional stability. Now, in today's cabinet meeting, I made a comment concerning typhoon number 11, that is called Typhoon Yagi, that occurred in early September. As a result of that, there were floods and landslides, various damage in Vietnam and Myanmar and other Southeast Asian countries. And related to this, I made a comment on the assistance that Japan will be providing. In Vietnam and Myanmar, where the damage is huge, there will be assistance provided to the affected people through UNICEF, IOM, and WFP. A total of $4 million of emergency grant aid will be provided. I extend my condolences to all who are affected, and also my sympathies to everyone who is still needed to evacuate. We hope that their lives will go back to normal as quickly as possible. And that is all from me initially.
So those of you with a question are kindly asked to raise your hand and please proceed to the microphone.
Sorry, Commander Paparo, not today, but he visited yesterday. Thank you.
Now, from the Kyoto, the news, Nishiyama-san, please. My name is Nishiyama. I belong to the Kyoto News. Just now, you have just referred to your meeting with Admiral Paparo. I have a question in regards to that. At the meeting, the minister, you mentioned that you would like to work on the mitigation of the impact of the Okinawa, and at the same time, you would like to have the close coordination in order to further strengthen the response capabilities and the deterrence of. What is it that you would especially focus on in regards to the impact mitigation? Yes, yesterday with the Commander Papolo, we had a discussion that we were optimizing the alliance to strengthen the Japan-U.S. alliance deterrence and response capabilities from the perspective of mitigating an impact on local communities, including Okinawa. We talked about the steady implementation of the rearrangement of the U.S. versus Japan. Well, we would like to work on the returning of the lands in Kadena and south of the Kadena and transfer of the marine course to the Guam, which is to the start from the end of the year if things to go smoothly. We would like to work on these matters. As for the avoidance of the fixation of the Futenma Air Station, which is the target of the Japanese government. We believe that transfer to the Henoko is the one and only solution which we have consistently argued. Well, for the full return of the Futenma Air Station, we would like to steadily proceed with the initiatives with the U.S. government. well, it goes without saying that for the stable stationing of the U.S. versus Japan, the understanding of the local community people, including Okinawa, and the cooperation is indispensable. Therefore, we would like to steadily work on the mitigation of the impact of the bases on Okinawa as a MOFA.
Next, Tsukamoto-san from Yomiuri Shimbun. My name is Tsukamoto from Yomiuri Shimbun. Thank you. Now, I would like to ask about expatriate voting system. Currently, there are about 1 million Japanese nationals overseas, and if you look at the national elections recently, the number of voters is only about 20,000. And maybe the voting stations are very limited and the voting period is extremely short. So there are people saying that it's very inconvenient to allow. So do you think that there is sufficient opportunity for these expatriates to vote? And what are the issues? Actually, I myself, concerning the issues that you have just raised, for a long time I have felt strongly that these are issues. And until very recently, I was acting chair of the LDP's election system reform meeting, and also I have also been actively participating in the nonpartisan parliamentary league in order to promote expatriate voting. Now, concerning expatriate voting, as you have just pointed out, there are various issues. Now, in this digital age, I believe that online voting should take place. Until now, there has been some improvement. We have been collaborating with the MIC, Ministry of Interior Affairs and Communication, and for example, concerning expatriate voter registration, maybe video calls can be used, so they will not need to go to the overseas diplomatic establishment in order to register to vote. Or the expatriate voter certification can be printed at the overseas diplomatic establishment so that this can be expedited. So these have taken place. However, maybe the Consulate General is very far. It takes some time. Sometimes one may need to stay overnight in order to vote. Depending on the country, there are such places. So, internet voting, we should open the doors to allow for that, I personally believe. Now, at the MIC, there is discussion related to these systems as well as the operation thereof. Of course, the fairness of the election need to be maintained. So, for the introduction of internet voting, there has to be personal identification and also avoidance of double voting, and also maintain security of the votes and system security measures. There are various issues that still need to be overcome, but we hope that this will move in a positive manner. And we would also like to continue with our measures. But this is an election system, so this is an issue related to all political parties, all factions. So rather than the ministries taking the lead, ultimately, there has to be consensus amongst all of the political parties and groups. So we hope that there will be discussions amongst the political parties. As Minister of Foreign Affairs, we will be collaborating closely with the MIC, which is responsible for elections.
From Asahi Shimbun, Satomi-san, please. Well, my name is Satomi. I belong to the Asahi Shimbun. Well, in the beginning, you mentioned about the emergency at the ground aid. In regards to that, I would like to ask you the question. I would like to ask you the question in regards to the emergency at the ground aid to the individual international institutions. What would be the amount of the money to be provided? I would like to know the breakdown. What sort of the support would be provided, like the water and so on. If you may, it's appreciated if you would give us an explanation. Please wait for a moment. My apology. Well, as for Vietnam, we are going to provide aid, which is worth $1 million through IOM. This is in regards to the support for the temporary shelter and non-food supplies. And through UNICEF, we are going to provide $1 million worth of water, sanitation, and protection of children. As for Myanmar, by the way, these two supports are for Vietnam. And as for Myanmar, through WFP, we are going to provide the food worth $1 million. And through UNICEF, we are going to provide water, sanitation, and protection of children worth $1 million. So, which add up to $4 million in total. Any other questions?
IWJ, please. Thank you. My name is Hamamatsu from IWJ, which is internet model media. So concerning the Ukraine conflict, the Kishida administration has unilaterally said that Russia is bad, and there has been very rigid diplomacy. So 8 years in Donbass and in East Ukraine, there was discrimination against Russians, and also there was ethnic cleansing as well. But both ministers Kamikawa and Hayashi did not acknowledge that. And so concerning the sanctions to Russia by Kishida administration, and also there was support to Ukraine in huge amount, and Japan is looking at Russia in a hostile manner. And if Trump wins, then the U.S.-Ukraine policy will change. So Japan should not just follow the U.S., but we should unilaterally and take initiative in promoting a peaceful diplomacy. So I would like to hear your views. Now, concerning this, we're not just being subservient to the United States. That is not the case. I mentioned it in my first press meeting. In Russia, of course, Russia has their own views, but regardless of that, one of the UN Security Council members have, by force, is trying to change the status quo unilaterally of an independent neighboring country, and this truly disrupts the core of international order. So, unilateral attempt to change the status quo by force, regardless of where it is, it cannot be tolerated. So, this is Japan's independent view. It is not as if we are just following what the U.S. is doing. And based on that kind of recognition, for the entire peace and safety of the international society, we have been taking measures to make Russia stop its aggression so that as quickly as possible, fair and lasting peace can come to the Ukrainians. But unfortunately, this is being prolonged. So we hope that this will be resolved as quickly as possible. And we will continue to support the Ukrainians for that.
Any other questions? NHK, please. Young-san. Well, my name is Yonezu. I belong to the NHK. Well, on 27th of October, the House of Representative election is the planned for President Ishiba. Minister, you have supported him, so I would like to ask you the question. You decided the LDP had decided not to endorse those who had the issue. So in regards to this policy, there are some who understands there are other strong oppositions, especially from those from former Abe faction. Well, in regards to this, I would like to know your take in regards to the policy of the endorsement. I would like to know your recognition in regards to the situation within the LDP, and I would like to know as to how you believe that the LDP should prepare for the election. Actually, as a Minister of Foreign Affairs, I believe that that's not the question that I should respond as a foreign minister. But if I may, as one member of the LDP, I would like to mention as follows. The Prime Minister, or say the LDP President's judgment at this time was the very strong, or must have been at a very hard the judgment for him, I think. Well, this is not a matter of the level of the situation in the party. Upon us preparing for the election, we must recover the trust towards the party, and for that purpose, it may be harsh. But for those Diet members who did not post the funding, we must severely respond, and that was the sort of judgment I believe the Prime Minister has made under the democracy. The judgment of the Japanese people would be the final and would be the highest judgment to be made. Therefore, at the election to take place, I do hope that as many Diet members as possible would give the explanation thoroughly, and so that the trust would be gained and would be able to come back. That is my hope. And then there is a criticism that the election is taking place too early, but currently the international the politics is changing rapidly, and we do not know as to what may happen. And the result of the U.S. presidential election is to come up in the next month as well. Not only that, well, just by coincidence, as Prime Minister, the answer today after the election, including the recovery efforts for the Noto Peninsula. He said that he needs to steadily work on the economic measures. Therefore, we must gain the trust of the Japanese national, and we hopefully would be able to stabilize the basis of the politics, so that we would be able to strongly proceed with the diplomacy, and we really do hope that we will be ready to promote the policy strongly. I am going to be one of the candidates for the election as well. Well, it's not that I would be able to stay at my the local town as was before, but I look forward to be able to compete in the election. But I would like to gain the trust. With this, we would like to close the press conference. Thank you.